Okay, so good morning everyone. In the last class we started about the structure of eye, and in the structure of eye we have completed that outermost layer of the eyeball, that is the sclera. It is the complete layer of eyeball, and at the anterior side it continues as the cornea here. So we have completed that the outermost layer is the sclera, and at the anterior side it continues as the cornea here. Now we have discussed the second layer of eyeball. The second layer of eyeball, that is the choroid. Here we have discussed that is the choroid here, that is the choroid here, and we have discussed that there are three parts of choroid. This one is the posterior choroid coat, and at the anterior side it is ciliary body here. It is the ciliary body here. So I told that we will discuss today related with the ciliary body, and the structure is hand, that is known as the lens here. A structure is hand, that is known as the lens, and on the anterior side there is another, that is known as the iris here. So we have discussed these structures diagram yesterday here. So now just see here, first one, that is the ciliary body. This one is the ciliary body. This one is the ciliary body. I will say all the important points one by one. Ciliary body, it is a circular band of smooth muscles. Circular band of smooth muscles here. Circular band of smooth muscles, that is the ciliary body. Number of ciliary body in one eye is the one. It means that there is a circular band of involuntary muscles or smooth muscles is there. So circular band of smooth muscles are there. On ciliary body, some ligamentous like structures are there, which are known as the suspensory ligaments. Which are known as the suspensory ligaments. The ligaments on the ciliary body, they are known as the suspensory ligaments. They are also known as the jonule of Jin. They are also known as the jonule of Jin here. They are also known as the jonule of Jin. And this part, I have already written that this part is the lens, which is hanged with the help of structures which are known as the suspensory ligaments here. Now, the ciliary body, it is responsible to change. It is responsible to change, or it is changing. It is responsible to change the curvature of the lens. Change the curvature of the lens. It is very important. It is responsible to change the curvature of the lens. Curvature of the lens here. It means it is the movement in the ciliary body. It is changing the curvature of the lens here. Now you have to remember carefully that ciliary body plus lens, ciliary body plus lens, ciliary body plus lens, they are related with together related with the accommodation power of eye. They are related with the accommodation power of eye here. Accommodation power of eye in simple term, we can say lens here. So that accommodation power of eye, that is due to the functioning of the ciliary body and the lens, that is the accommodation power of the eye here. That is the function of ciliary body and lens here. So this is the ciliary body. Ciliary body consists of two parts. Ciliary body consists of two parts. One part that is known as the choroidal part. One part that is known as the choroidal part here. One part that is known as the choroidal part, and one part that is known as the retinal part. Retinal part of ciliary body and the choroidal part of ciliary body, they combine to form the ciliary body here. And with this ciliary body, there are suspensory ligaments, jonule of Jin, which are help to hang the lens here. Now when we are saying about the lens is biconcave. Lens we can say in human beings the lens is a crystalline. You have to remember like this is a crystalline. This is a crystalline and transparent structure. This is a crystalline and transparent structure here. Crystalline and transparent structure. Lens is biconcave, crystalline, and that is the transparent structure here. It is also transparent. It is also transparent. It is also transparent. It is also avascular. Lens is also avascular here. It is also avascular here. Lens is also avascular. It is crystalline. It is transparent. It is biconcave here. So that is the crystalline, transparent, avascular structure here. Lens, it is also receiving the nutrition. It is also receiving the nutrition from aqueous humor here. We have discussed all these points here. As the age increases, the transparent power of the lens decreases and the opacity increases. opacity increases as the age increases, the opacity of the lens also increases. This condition is known as the cataract. Here. So this one is about the ciliary body, circular band of smooth muscle. Here there is number is 1, and here just see they are having the suspensory ligament, nodule of Ginn, and they are ciliary body responsible to change the curvature of the lens. Choroidal part, retinal part of the ciliary body is there, and ciliary body plus lens, that is I will say that is related with the accommodation power of eye here. Lens is a crystalline, transparent, biconcave structure that is avascular, and as the age increases, the opacity of the lens increases. The condition is known as the cataract. And when the cataract takes place, we are changing the lens. By a technique here. So we are changing the lens. So again, the person becomes normal here. So this one is about the ciliary body here. That first part of the choroid, that is the posterior choroid cord. Second part of choroid, that is the ciliary body here. Now I am coming on the third one, that is known as the iris. The third part of the choroid, that is known as the iris. Just see, related with the iris, the color of eye is also due to the color of iris. Some persons are having the brownish eye, bluish eye. So that is the color of eye is due to the color of iris here, and it is a genetic character. It is not in our hand. It is a genetic character here. The color of eye is due to the color of iris here. Now see, the space which is number of iris in one eye is 1. The space in the iris, that is known as the pupil. Now, in iris, two different types of muscles are present. This one is the space that is known as the pupil. It is having two types of muscle. First one, that is known as the circular muscles. They are the circular muscles, and here they are also having the radial muscle. They are having the circular muscles, plus they are having the radial muscles here. So in iris, two types of muscles are present. First one, that is known as the circular muscle, and second one, that is known as the radial muscles here. Now here the circular muscles are dilators, whereas radial muscles are sphincter. Circular muscles are dilators, where the radial muscles are sphincters. Circular muscles are dilators, they dilate, and the radial muscles are the sphincter here. So what is the function of iris? Iris controls, very important, please note it down carefully. Iris controls the amount of light. Entering into the eyeball. Iris controls the amount of light entering into the eyeball. By changing the size of pupil. Here. So iris controls the amount of light entering into the eyeball by changing the size of the pupil. This is the function of the iris here. Very important. Iris controls the amount of light entering into the eyeball by changing the size of the pupil here. So iris controls the amount of light, because in iris the circular muscles are there, which are dilators, radial muscles are there, which are sphincter here. So iris controls the amount of light entering into the eyeball by changing the size of the pupil here. And yesterday we have discussed that sympathetic, the effect of sympathetic on pupil, that is the inhibitory. It means the sympathetic dilates the pupil. It means the sympathetic dilates the pupil here. Here the sympathetic, it dilates the pupil here. Here the sympathetic, it dilates the pupil here. So this you have to remember related with the iris, pupil and ciliary body here. Now the innermost layer, of the eyeball. Now the innermost layer of the eyeball, it is the retina. So I am drawing like this with the blue color, that is the retina here. The innermost layer, that is known as the nervous cord. Innermost layer, inner layer, that is the nervous cord, that is known as the retina here. So now we are going to discuss about the retina. Before starting the retina, that is known by us now. Retina is the innermost layer. Retina is the innermost layer, and retina, that is just see here, that is the innermost layer, and it is the incomplete layer of eyeball. It is also known as the nervous cord. Before going to start the retina, please see some important points here. Now just see here, this is the cornea, this is the lens. Between the cornea and lens, there is a space. Between the cornea and lens, there is a space. Between the cornea, this is the cornea, and here it is the lens. Between the cornea and lens, there is a space that is known as the anterior chamber. That is known as the anterior chamber. And in this anterior chamber, there is a space between the lens. This is the cornea. This is the cornea. This is the lens. Between the lens and cornea, there is a space. This space is filled with a fluid. This space is filled with a fluid. This space is filled with a fluid. That fluid is known as the aqueous humor. Very important. Aqueous humor. Aqueous humor. This fluid is known as the aqueous humor here. This fluid is known as the aqueous humor. Where this fluid is filled? This fluid is filled in the space between the lens and cornea, that is in the anterior chamber. This fluid is known as the aqueous humor here. It's a watery fluid. It's a watery fluid here. It's a watery fluid. The aqueous humor is a watery fluid here. The aqueous humor is a watery fluid here. The aqueous humor, it is a watery fluid, that is very important. There is continuous secretion of aqueous humor. Secretion. There is continuous secretion. Continuous. There is continuous secretion throughout the life. There is continuous secretion of aqueous humor. There is continuous secretion of aqueous humor. Why? There is continuous secretion of aqueous humor by the ciliary muscle. By the ciliary muscle, there is continuous secretion of aqueous humor by the ciliary muscles here. Continuous secretions means there is throughout the life. Throughout the life, there is continuous secretion of the aqueous humor here. There is continuous secretion of the aqueous humor. There is a canal. There is a canal like here. There is a pair of canal. We can say there is a canal. There is a canal. This canal is known as the canal of Schlemm. This canal is known as the canal of Schlemm. This canal is known as the canal of Schlemm. This canal is known as the canal of Schlemm. So the aqueous humor, it is continuously secreted by. It is continuously secreted by. It is continuously secreted by. It is continuously secreted by ciliary body, and continuously secreted by ciliary body, and absorbed into blood, and it is absorbed into blood through canal of Schlemm. Through canal of Schlemm. It is absorbed into the blood through the canal of Schlemm here. And what is canal of Schlemm? It is a venous plexus. What is canal of Schlemm? It is a venous plexus here. So canal of Schlemm, it is a venous plexus here. So there is continuous secretion of aqueous humor by the ciliary body throughout the life. There is continuous secretion of aqueous humor by the ciliary body throughout the life here, and there is continuous absorption of aqueous humor through the canal of Schlemm. And canal of Schlemm, that is carrying this aqueous humor up to the venous blood here, because it's a venous plexus here. The pressure which is developed by this aqueous humor, there is a pressure which is developed by this aqueous humor that is known as the intraocular pressure. The pressure is known as the intraocular pressure. There is a pressure that is developed by this aqueous humor. That pressure is known as the intraocular pressure here. The pressure which is developed by this aqueous humor, that is known as the intraocular pressure. The value of intraocular pressure, that is the 20 to 25 mm of Hg. That is the 22 to 25 mm of Hg here. That is the 20 to 25 mm of Hg. That is the pressure here, and it is measured with the help of an instrument that is known as the tonometer. It is measured with the help of an instrument that is known as the tonometer. So average pressure is 20 to 25 mm of Hg. That is due to the aqueous humor here, and it is measured with the help of an instrument that is known as the tonometer here. Sometimes due to the obstruction in the canal of Schlemm, sometimes due to the obstruction, like if there is any obstruction, mucus like this, sometimes due to the obstruction in the canal of Schlemm, the intraocular pressure increases. This condition is known as the glaucoma. It is a slightly, although it is controllable condition here, that condition is known as the glaucoma. Medicinal plus surgical treatment is there. So secretion of aqueous humor is a continuous process. It is continuously secreted by ciliary muscles throughout the life, and it is absorption takes place in the blood, in the venous blood through the canal of Schlemm here. Canal of Schlemm is a venous plexus here. But sometimes if there is obstruction in the canal of Schlemm, then the intraocular pressure increases. When intraocular pressure increases, the condition is known as the glaucoma here. So this one is about the anterior chamber and the fluid which is filled here, that is known as the aqueous humor here. So what is the name of the fluid? That is the aqueous humor, continuously secreted by ciliary body, continuously absorbed through the canal of Schlemm, that is the venous plexus here. That is the venous plexus, and through the venous plexus it is entering into the venous blood. Through the canal of Schlemm it is entering into the venous blood, and just see, continuous process. But if there is any obstruction in this canal of Schlemm, the intraocular pressure increases. This condition is known as the glaucoma here. Now see, between the lens and retina, there is posterior chamber. This is the posterior chamber here. That is the posterior chamber here between the lens and retina. Then this one is the posterior chamber, and the fluid which is filled in this posterior chamber, it is known as the vitreous humor. The fluid which is present in this posterior chamber, that is known as the vitreous humor. 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 The fluid which is present in the posterior chamber, that is known as the vitreous humor. It is secreted only once. It is secreted only once by the retina. It is secreted only once by the retina. It is secreted only once by the retina during the last embryonic stage. During the last embryonic stage, it is secreted by retina. During the last embryonic stage, it is secreted by retina only once. That is secreted by the retina during the last embryonic stage. Remember carefully, after the birth, there is no secretion. After the birth, there is no secretion, no absorption. After the birth, there is no secretion, no absorption of vitreous humor. No absorption of vitreous humor. After the birth, no secretion, no absorption of the vitreous humor takes place here. It means once it is secreted by the retina during the last embryonic stage, and after the birth, there is no secretion and no absorption. After the birth, there is no secretion and no absorption. After the birth, there is no secretion and no absorption of this vitreous humor takes place here. Vitreous humor, it is a jelly-like substance. It is a gel-like substance here, and it is responsible for the shape of eyeball. It is responsible for the shape of eyeball here. So vitreous humor is responsible for the shape of eyeball here. Now before going to discuss the retina in detail, I am saying two more points which you have to see in the interior of the eye here. In the center of the lens and retina, in the center of the lens and retina, there is a point. In the center of the lens and retina, there is a point like this. In the center of the lens and retina, there is a point where the number of cone cells, where the number of cone cells is more than the number of rods, this area is known as the macula lutea, or it is also known as the yellow spot. It is also known as the yellow spot. In the center of the lens and retina, there is a point, there is an area where the number of cone cells is more than the number of rods. This is known as the macula lutea, or this is known as the yellow spot. In the center of yellow spot, there is a depression. In the center of yellow spot, there is a depression where only cone cells are present. Only cone cells are present. Only cone cells are present. Where only cone cells are present. Where only cone cells are present. This area is known as the fovea centralis. This area is known as the fovea centralis. This area is known as the fovea centralis, and it is having only the cones. This area is known as the fovea centralis here, and fovea centralis is the area of sharpest vision. It is the area of sharpest vision. Fovea centralis, it is the area of sharpest vision here. So fovea centralis in the center of lens and retina, an area is there where only the cone cells are present. That is known as in the center of macula lutea yellow spot, where only cone cells are present. That is the area of sharpest vision. That is known as the fovea centralis here. So this is the another point. Obliquely to lens and retina, there is a point. Obliquely to lens and retina, there is a point where rods and cones are absent. Obliquely to lens and retina, there is a point where rods and cones are absent. Obliquely to lens and retina, there is a point where rods and cones are absent. This area is known as the blind spot. This area is known as the blind spot, or it is known as the optic disc. It is known as the optic disc. This area is known as the blind spot, or this is known as the optic disc. As no rods and no cones, so no image formation. No image formation. There is no image formation here. No image formation here. There is no image formation here. No image formation here. And just see second cranial nerve. Second cranial nerve. That is the optic nerve. Second cranial nerve. That is the optic nerve. It arises from this point. Second cranial nerve, that is the optic nerve, it arises from this point. Second cranial nerve, that is the optic nerve, it arises from this point. That's why this point is known as the optic disc, or that is known as the blind spot here. That is known as the optic disc, or that is known as the blind spot here. So this one is the optic disc, or that is known as the blind spot here. Now just see, retina and choroid, they are separated from each other here. They separated from each other. That is the optic part of retina. It's separated from the choroidal part of retina and iridial part of retina. This point is known as the ora serrata. That is point is known as the ora serrata. Separation point. Ora serrata is the separation point. That is the separation point of retinal. That is the retina and the choroid here. That is the retina and the choroid. Here I will say the optic part of the retina and the choroidal part of the retina. That is the optic part of retina, and that is we can say retinal optic part of the retina, and that is the retinal part of the choroid. They are separated from each other. That is known as the ora serrata here. So this you have to remember in the structure of eye here. Now we have to discuss about the retinal layer in detail here. So now I am coming on the layer, that is the innermost layer of the eye wall. that is known as the retina. Why I have discussed internal before the retina? Because diagram was also there. So now just see here, related with the retina. Retina, that is the innermost layer of the eyeball, that is also known as the nervous cord. Retina, that is the innermost layer of eyeball, that is also known as the nervous cord here. Now the retina, it is consists of three parts. There are three parts of the retina. There are three parts of the retina. There are three parts of the retina. First one, optic part of retina. Optic part of retina. First one, that is known as the optic part of retina. Second one, that is known as the choroidal part of retina. Second one, that is known as the choroidal part of retina. And third one, that is known as the iridial part of retina. Iridial part. Iris is also formed by the choroid retina. Iridial part of retina here. So that is the 3/4 of the inner surface of eye that is lined by the optic part of retina here. So what are the three parts of retina? Optic part of retina, choroidal part of retina, and the iridial part of retina are there. In the optic part of retina, there are two layers. In the optic part of retina, there are two layers. One that is known as the pigmented layer. One that is known as the pigmented layer. One that is known as the pigmented layer. And second one that is known as the neural layer of retina. One that is known as the pigmented layer of retina, and second one that is known as the neural layer of retina. In the choroidal part and iridial part, only pigmented layer of retina is present. Only pigmented layer of retina is present. Only pigmented layer of retina is present. And what is absent? The neural layer is absent here. The neural layer is absent in the choroidal part and the iridial part of retina here. So retina, three parts: optic part of retina, choroidal part of retina, iridial part of retina. Optic part of retina, that is the 3/4. It is having two layers: pigmented layer, neural layer. And neural layer is absent in the choroidal part of retina, and choroidal part of retina and the iridial part of retina here. So these are absent in the that is the, you can say, that is the choroidal part, and that is the iridial part of retina. They are the absent here. Now just see, we are going to discuss about pigmented layer and about the neural layer here. See, this is the eye. If I can say, this is the eye here. This is the eye here, and this one is the choroid. That is the black inner band. This is the choroid. That is the black inner band here. That's why I have done it with the black color. So this is the choroid. This is the choroid here. This is the choroid here. Choroid, and it is known as the black inner band because it absorbs black inner band. Black inner band here. And on the inner side of it, so we can say choroid, and after the sclera, so that is the outer side. That is the outer side. Try to get, this is very important, that is the outer side here. Now there is retina, and retina is consist of two layers. Retina, that is the optic part of retina, is consist of two layers. This is the pigmented epithelium layer. This is the pigmented epithelium layer. Please try to get it carefully. This one is the pigmented epithelium. This is the pigmented epithelium. That is the pigmented layer of retina. That is the pigmented layer of retina. That is the pigmented layer of retina, pigmented epithelium here. So we can say, and from here they are the neural layer. From here they are the neural layer of retina. From here they are the neural layer of retina which are towards the inside. Which are towards the inside. Inside means towards the lens here. Getting? So this is very important to remember that pigmented layer of retina is present between the choroid and the neural layer of retina. Pigmented epithelium, pigmented layer of retina, pigmented layer of retina. Pigmented layer of retina is present. It is present between the choroid. It is present between the choroid. It is present between the choroid and the neural layer of retina. And the neural layer of retina here. So where the pigmented epithelium or pigmented layer of retina is present, it is present between choroid and the neural layer of retina. It is present between choroid and neural layer of retina here. Pigmented epithelium, it is having the pigmented epithelium, the pigmented layer or the pigment epithelium. The pigment epithelium, it is having pigmented epithelium, it is having melanin containing, it is having the melanin containing epithelial cells. It is having the melanin containing epithelial cells, and these melanin containing epithelial cells, they are capable to absorb light. They are capable to absorb light. Yesterday we have discussed now that choroid is there, which is able to absorb all the light here. So after it, some light that is enters into the light, it will absorb. So when it is capable to absorb light, it also prevents internal reflection. It also prevents internal reflection. Choroid and pigmented epithelium, they prevent the internal reflection, they prevent the scattering, and they help to make the clear image here. So this one is about the epithelial layer that is having the pigmented epithelium, and this pigmented epithelium is also present in the ciliary part of the retina and in the iridial part of the retina here. So we have discussed that is about the pigmented epithelium. Now in the neural layer, there are three zones. In the neural layer, there are the three zones, or there are three layers. There are three zones, or there are three layers here. In the neural zone, there are three zones or three layers here. Okay, now just see. Bipolar neuronic zone. What is the first layer? Bipolar neuronic zone. In the neural layer, first one, that is the bipolar neuronic zone. It is known as the bipolar cellular layer. It is the bipolar cellular layer. Second one, that is the bipolar neuronic zone. That is just the first one. We are going to discuss from pigmented epithelium up to the lens. Please remember this. We are going to discuss from pigmented epithelium up to the lens, and this layer is the neural layer. What is the name here? Neural layer of the optic part of retina, and it is consist of three zones. I told it is consist of three zones. The first one is the photoreceptor zones. First one, that is known as the photoreceptor zone. First one, that is known as the photoreceptor layer, or photoreceptor zone. Second one, that is known as the bipolar neuronic zone. Bipolar neuronic zone, in this part bipolar neurons are present. And third one is known as the ganglionic zone. Third one is known as the ganglionic zone here. Third one is known as the ganglionic zone. So photoreceptor layer, bipolar neuron layer, ganglionic cell layer or ganglionic layer here. And now the axon of ganglionic cell, now the axon of ganglionic layer, they combine to form the optic nerve here. They combine to form the optic nerve. This is the inner side of the eye, and I already told that is the outer side of the eye here. So photoreceptor zone, bipolar neuronic zone, ganglionic zone. These are the three different layers here. That is in the neural layer 3. Just see, between the photoreceptor zone and bipolar neuronic zone, here horizontal cells are present. Horizontal cells are present, and here between here that bipolar and ganglionic amacrine cells are present. What are present? Amacrine cells are present. It means they are forming the synapse. Photoreceptor cells attached with the bipolar neuronic cells. They are attached with the bipolar. Please wait because light has gone. So now you are able to observe now. Okay, now it's came. So now just see here that between the photoreceptor zone and bipolar neuronic zone, they are the horizontal cells. They are forming synapse. And here bipolar neuronic zone and ganglionic zone, they are having the amacrine cells here. Again they are forming the synapse here. Horizontal cells and amacrine cells, they are related with the lateral vision. They are related with the lateral vision here. They are related with the lateral vision. Horizontal cell and amacrine cells, they are related with the lateral vision here. Horizontal cells and amacrine cells, they are related with the lateral image here. They are related with the lateral image here. So what is the sequence of the layer? See, what is the sequence of the structure? Outer side, sclera, choroid, pigmented epithelium, photoreceptive zone, bipolar neuronic zone, ganglionic zone, and the axon of the ganglionic layer, they are forming the optic nerve, and towards that is the inner side, that is the lens here. So this one is about the sequence of the layers which are present in the retina and all here. Now see here in the photoreceptor zone, in the photoreceptive 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 zone, two types of cells are present. Two types of cells are present. Two types of cells are present. First one which are known as the rods, and second one which are known as the cones. So how many types of cells are present in the photoreceptive zone? Two types of cells are present. Rods are present and the cones are also present. So in the photoreceptive zone, two types of cells are present. One is known as the rods and one is known as the cones here. Rods and cones, they are the photoreceptive cells. They are the photoreceptive cells. They are the photosensitive cells. They are the photoreceptive cells here. When we are comparing the rods and cones, the rods are related with the scotopic vision. Rods are related with the scotopic vision. The rods are related with the scotopic vision, whereas the cones are related with the photopic vision. Cones are related with the photopic vision. Rods are related with the scotopic vision. Dim light mediated vision, that is known as the scotopic. Dim light mediated vision, that is known as the scotopic vision. Bright light mediated vision, that is known as the photopic vision. So what is photopic vision? That is the bright light, that is the bright light mediated vision, that is the bright light mediated vision, that is the photopic vision. And the scotopic vision, that is the dim light, that is the dim light mediated vision, that is the dim light mediated vision, that is known as the scotopic vision. And photopic vision, that is the bright light mediated vision, that is known as the photopic vision here. So you have to remember. Second point, rods are for the dim light, or for the, we can say, rods are related with for the black and white vision. Rods are related with the black and white vision. And you have to remember C for C. Cones are for color. Cones are for color. Cones are for the color vision. So who is responsible for the color vision? That is the cones. And who is responsible for the dim light vision? That is the rods here. Now just see here, in the eye, the number of rods is more than the number of cones. The number of rods is more than the number of cones here. The number of rods more than the number of cones here. When we are observing that occurrence where they are formed, the cones are present mainly. The cones are present mainly in the central part of retina. Present mainly in the central part of retina. They are present mainly in the central part of retina. They are present mainly in the central part of retina. Rods are present mainly in the periphery of retina. Periphery of retina. Mainly in the periphery of retina here. So now just see, rods are for the scotopic vision, that is known as the dim light mediated vision. Cones are for the photopic vision, that is the bright light mediated vision. Number of rods is more than the number of cones. Rods mainly present in the periphery. Cones mainly present in the central part of retina. When we are saying about the cones, they are less photosensitive. They are having the less photosensitive they are less photosensitive and they are having the more resolution. They are having less photosensitive, they are the more resolution power is there. Rods, they are having more photosensitivity, they are the more photosensitive, less resolution here. So what I stated about the rods and cones, just see once, I am saying again here. Rods related with the scotopic vision means dim light mediated vision. That is, rods related with the scotopic vision, dim light mediated vision. Cones related with the photopic vision, bright light mediated vision. Rods for black and white vision, cones for the C for C, cones for the color vision. Number of rods is more than the number of cones here. Rods present in the peripheral part of the retina, cones present in the central part of the retina. The sensitivity of rods is more, they are more photosensitive, so less resolution. Cones are less photosensitive, so more resolution here. Now see, in the cytoplasm of rods, a specific pigment is present. In the cytoplasm of rods, a specific photosensitive pigment is present. What is present? Photosensitive pigment is present. This photosensitive pigment is known as the rhodopsin. In the rods, a specific photosensitive pigment is present, that is known as the rhodopsin. Rhodopsin extracted by cohones. Rhodopsin is present, it is extracted by cohones. It is also known as the sepulpa. Or it is also known as the visual pulpa. It is known as the sepulpa, or it is known as the visual pulpa. The rhodopsin is known as the sepulpa, or it is known as the visual pulpa here. The rhodopsin is known as the sepulpa, or that is known as the visual pulpa here. So in the rods, a pigment is there, that is known as the rhodopsin, extracted by cohones, that is also known as the sepulpa, or it is also known as the visual pulpa there. So it is having a pigment, that is rhodopsin. It is extracted by cohones and it is known as the sepulpa, or it is known as the visual pulpa here. So it is the sepulpa, or it is the visual pulpa. Rhodopsin is made up of retinal plus opsin. It is made up of retinal plus opsin. Rhodopsin is made up of retinal plus opsin here. What is retinal? Retinal is the pre-form of vitamin A. That is the pre-form of vitamin A. And what is opsin? Opsin is a protein. What is opsin? Opsin is a protein, and here it is the scotopsin. Here opsin is a protein and it is the scotopsin here. So rhodopsin is made up of two. One that is known as the retinal, and second one that is known as the opsin. What is retinal? Pre-form of vitamin A. Semi, which is the richest source of vitamin A? Carrot. So we used to say eat carrot plus 1 glass of water, it will form the retinol here, that is the vitamin A here. So rhodopsin, it is having two, retinal plus opsin. Retinal is pre-form of vitamin A. That's why the vitamin A given after the birth here, and opsin, that is the protein here. And rods, they are related with the dim light vision. They are related with the scotopic vision. In human eye, the number of rods is more than the number of cones. Rods are related with the black and white vision. They are present mainly in the periphery. They are more photosensitive, so less resolution is there. So we have discussed about these rods here. After the rods, the cones which are present in the cells which are present in the photoreceptive zone, they are known as the cones. In the cones, there is one pigment that is known as the iodopsin. There is one pigment that is known as the iodopsin. There is one pigment that is known as the iodopsin here. Iodopsin is made up of iodine plus opsin. Iodopsin is made up of iodine plus opsin here. iodine, and here the iodine is present in the molecular form here. That is the cones here. Now there is a theory that is known as the trichromatic theory of color vision. As per the trichromatic theory of color vision, three specific pigments are present in the cone cells. Three specific pigments are present in the cone cells. Three specific pigments are present in the cone cells, which are responsible for perception of three basic colors. As per the trichromatic theory of color vision, three specific pigments are present in the cone cells, which are responsible for the perception of three basic color. Like for the red color, there is one pigment that is known as the erythropsin. For the red color, there is one pigment that is known as the erythropsin here. For the red color, there is a pigment that is known as the erythropsin. For the green color, there is a pigment that is known as the chloropsin. That is known as the chloropsin here. And for the blue color, these are the three basic colors, red, green, and blue. They are the red color, that is the erythropsin, chloropsin, and here the blue color, that is known as the cyanopsin. It is the chloropsin, that is the cyanopsin here. So these are the three specific pigments which are present in the cone cells and which are responsible for the perception of three basic color. Like erythropsin responsible for the red color, chloropsin responsible for the green color, cyanopsin responsible for the blue color here. High wavelength, that is the received by the erythropsin, then medium received by the green, and low wavelength is received by the blue color here. So these are the three, and when the equal wavelength light is fallen down on these erythropsin, chloropsin, and cyanopsin, then the white color is produced here. So these are the three basic cone cells, three basic pigments which are present in the cone cells, responsible for the perception of three basic color here. In fovea centralis, I will say in fovea centralis, the ratio of photoreceptor cells, bipolar neuronic cells, and the ganglionic cell is 1:1:1. That's why in the fovea centralis the vision is sharpest. It is the area of the sharpest vision here. Whereas in the other part of retina, so many photoreceptive cells, they synapse with the one bipolar neuronic cell, and so many bipolar neuronic cells, they synapse with the ganglionic cell here. But in the fovea centralis, the ratio is 1:1:1. So this is about the structure of retina, and this is about the different pigments which are present here. So we have discussed up to the eye here. A small part is remaining, that is the interoceptor, plus that is the sense of olfaction, smell, and sense of that is the taste. So in the afternoon I will take a class from 2 to 2:30 or 2 to 2:20, that to complete the syllabus of the tomorrow's test here. Okay, so I will inform the Praveen sir and he will inform you all. Okay, thank you, all the best, thank you. In the morning we started, we completed up to the retina, it means up to the photoreceptor here. Like when we discussed the classification of receptors, we have completed the receptors like the external receptor, and in the external receptor we have completed the photoreceptor, and in the photoreceptor what is included? that is the eye here. So yesterday in the tomorrow test we are going to ask up to the internal structure of eye, that we have already completed. Functioning of eye, it will become in the next test here. Now the second one, that is we have to discuss about the second one, that is the sense of olfaction. We are going to discuss the sense of olfaction. We are going to discuss the sense of olfaction. It means we are going to discuss about the olfactory epithelium here. About the olfactory epithelium, we have to discuss about the olfactory epithelium, or we have to discuss about the olfactoreceptor. We have to discuss about the olfactoreceptor here. So related with the sense of olfaction, in simple language it is known as the sense of smell here. So related with the olfactoreceptor, what is the organ which is related with the sense of olfaction here? So the organ which is related with the sense of olfaction, it is the nose. The organ which is related with the sense of olfaction, that is the nose here. If I will say this one is the nasal cavity here. In the center of nasal cavity, this is the nasal septum here. In the center of nasal cavity, this is the nasal septum here. Nasal septum is a bone which is dividing the nasal cavity into the right and the left nasal cavity. This is the right nasal cavity, and this one is the left nasal cavity here. And imaginary, the nasal cavity is divided into three parts. Imaginary, the nasal cavity, it is divided into three parts here. It is divided into three parts here. The nasal cavity is divided into three parts. You have to remember like VRO. VRO. First one, that is known as the vestibular region. First one, that is known as the vestibular region. First one, that is known as the vestibular region. Second one, that is known as the respiratory region. That is known as the respiratory region. This is the respiratory region. And third one, this region is known as the olfactory region here. The third region, that is known as the olfactory region here. And the region which is related with the sense of olfaction, sense of smell, that is the olfactory region here. So the posterior most, this one is the posterior most, and this one is the anterior most part of the nose here. So on the posterior most part of the nose, one region is there, that is known as the olfactory region here. So which part of nose related to receive the sense of olfaction or smell? That is the olfactory region, which is the third or the posterior most region of the nose that is related with the sense of olfaction here. In the olfactory region, a specific epithelium is present, that is known as the olfactory epithelium. In the olfactory region, a specific epithelium is present, that is known as the olfactory epithelium. That is known as the olfactory epithelium. It is related with the, it is discovered by the Schneiderian. It is discovered by the Schneiderian, or if you will say, also considered as the Cnidarian. It is known as the Schneiderian membrane here. So at the posterior most part of the nose, olfactory epithelium is present, and here this olfactory epithelium is also known as the Schneiderian membrane here. When we are saying what are the cells which are present, what are the cells present in the olfactory epithelium, what are the cells which are present in the olfactory epithelium? So in the olfactory epithelium, three types of cells in the olfactory epithelium, three types of cells plus a type of glands are also present, which are known as the Bowman's gland here. A specific gland which is present in the nose, they are known as the Bowman's gland here. So how many types of cells are present? Three types of cells are present. Three types of cells are present, and they are having a specific gland. That gland is known as the Bowman's gland here. What is the function of Bowman's gland? The function of Bowman's gland is to secrete the mucus. The function of Bowman's gland is to secrete the mucus here. What are the three types of cells present in the olfactory epithelium here? First one, that is known as the olfactory. First one, that is known as the olfactory receptor cell. First one, they are known as the olfactory receptor cells. Olfactory receptor cells. First one, this is known as the olfactory receptor cell. Second one, that is known as the columnar. Second one, that is known as the columnar supporting cells. Columnar supporting cells are columnar supportive cells here. second are known as the columnar supportive cells, and third are known as the short basal cells. Short basal cells, these are the three types of cells which are present in the olfactory epithelium here. So what is present in the olfactory epithelium? In the olfactory epithelium we can say three types of cells are present. Olfactory receptor cells, columnar supportive cells, and the short basal cells are present. And where they are present? They are present in the olfactory epithelium. Where they are present? They are present in the olfactory epithelium here. And this olfactory epithelium, it is lined by this olfactory epithelium is lined by pseudostratified. It is lined by the pseudostratified ciliated. It is lined by the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. It is lined by the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelial cells here. So it is having the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium, and it is having the three types of cells which we have already discussed. That one, that is the olfactory receptor cell, second one that is known as the columnar supportive cells, and third one that is known as the short basal cells are there. So these are the different types of cells which are present in the nose here, in the olfactory epithelium of the nose here. If I will say that is the bony part here, it is the bony part of the nose here. So just the bony part, it means I will say that is the nasal septum is there, and here they are having the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. What the epithelium they are having? They are having the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. They are having the pseudostratified. It means the length of the cells is different, and at the anterior end they are having the ciliacea. Basically the olfactory receptor cells are the bipolar neurons. They are the bipolar neurons here. It is the upper, that is the roof of the nasal cavity here. This part is known as the olfactory bulb. Here. So olfactory receptor cells, they are the bipolar neuron here. So if I will say that this is the olfactory receptor cells which are present here. These are the olfactory receptor cells which are present here. So they are the bipolar neurons, so they are having the dendron. So this one is known as the dendron here. And just see, their axon is present on the posterior side. So now the axon they will combine here, and after combination, now the axon they are getting combined, and after it they are forming a nerve that is known as the olfactory nerve here. So this is the nasal epithelium that is having the olfactoreceptor cell. What are they? They are the olfactory receptor cell, and basically these are the bipolar neurons. Through the bipolar neurons, the smell is collected. It is going up to the olfactory bulb, and from the olfactory bulb, a nerve arises that is known as the olfactory nerve. That is the first pair of cranial nerve. And from it, the sense of olfaction is going up to the brain here. Where it is going? It is going up to the brain here. So what is the sequence? The first one, who is collecting the sense of olfaction? That is the olfactory receptor cells. They are dendron. And now just see, from here the sense of olfaction is going into the olfactory lobes. It is going into the olfactory lobes. From olfactory lobes, we are going. From olfactory lobes, it is going into the olfactory nerve. And from olfactory nerve, where it is going? It is going up to the brain here. And brain is analyzing what the type of smell we are getting here. So this one is the first one, that is known as the sense of olfaction. A very small you have to remember. You have to remember the types of cells and the pathway of impulse, how the smell, sense of olfaction is received by the brain here. So this one is about the first, that is the sense of olfaction here. Now we are going to discuss another small part. We are going to discuss another small part, that is the sense of taste, that is known as the gustatorreceptor here. So now we are going to discuss the sense of taste. If you are remembering, we have discussed chemoreceptors. We have discussed chemoreceptor in the types of external receptor. We have discussed chemoreceptor, and in the chemoreceptor I told that there are two types of chemoreceptor. One that is known as the olfactoreceptor, and second one that is known as the gustatorreceptor here. Olfactoreceptor, that is related with the sense of smell. That is related with the sense of smell here. That is the nose. It is the nose here. And second one, that is the gustatorreceptor. It is related with the sense of taste. It is related with the sense of taste, and it is the tongue. We can say on the tongue the receptor for taste are present here, and they both are the chemoreceptor. It means the chemicals in the form of gas, chemicals in the form of gas, when they come in the form of gas, when they come in contact with the liquid medium, when they come contact with the liquid medium, then only their receptor will receive their stimuli or their impulse here. That's why they are known as the chemoreceptor. They are collected in the form of chemical impulses, so they are known as the chemoreceptor here. So now after the olfactory receptor, we are going to discuss about the gustatorreceptor, that is known as the tongue here. Related with the sense of taste, the organ is the tongue. Known on the tongue, we can say that taste papillae are present. What are present? Taste papillae are present. Taste papillae are present. What are the taste papillae? Taste papillae are the folds of mucous membrane. They are the folds of mucous membrane. Taste papillae are the folds of mucous membrane present on the surface of tongue. They are the folds of mucous membrane present on the surface of tongue. They are present on the surface of tongue. They are the folds of mucous membrane which are present on the surface of tongue here. Now the taste papillae are having taste buds. They are having the taste buds here. The taste papillae are having the taste buds here. They are having the taste buds. The taste papillae are having the taste buds here. They are having the taste buds here, and the taste bud they are responsible. The taste buds they are responsible to receive the sense of taste here. In taste bud, three different types of cells are present. In a taste bud, three different types of cells are present. How many types of cells are present? Three different types of cells are present in the taste buds. One that is known as the gustatory receptor cells. One that is known as the gustatory receptor cell. Receptor cell means one who is receiving. Like today morning we have discussed that is related with the vision, that is the rods and cones here, that are photosensitive. Here they are the gustatory receptor cells. They will receive the sense of gustation. Second one that is known as the columnar supportive cell. They are the columnar supportive cell, like in the nose we have discussed, the name are the same, columnar supportive cells. And third one they are known as the short basal cells. Here. The number of gustatory receptor cell, in one test bud, the number of gustatory receptor cell, it is about 40. And now be careful. Here in the olfactoepithelium we have discussed that olfactory receptor cells, they are the bipolar neuron. But here you have to remember that they are not bipolar neuron. They are not the bipolar neuron. It means they are not having axon and dendron. So which structure is there? Who is responsible to receive the sensation here? Where the action potential will generate? So in contact, so you have to remember, in contact with taste buds, in contact in contact with test buds, in contact with test buds, in contact with test bud, accessory sensory neurons are present. Accessory sensory neurons are present. What are present? Accessory sensory neurons are present, and these accessory sensory neurons, they are collecting the sense of taste. They are collecting the sense of taste here. Now this sense of taste, this action potential, it is going up to the brain stem. It is going up to the brain stem, and from the brain stem, it is going into the cerebral cortex here. So now the brain is deciding the type of taste here. So these are the different you have to remember in very short related with the olfactory receptor and gustative receptor organ. Type of cell, olfactory receptor cell, they are the bipolar neuron, but gustatory receptor cell, they are the simple cell having the microvilli. Here, just see who is collecting the sense of olfaction, sense of taste, that is the sensory neurons here, and they are sending the taste, that is the impulse up to the brain stem, then it is going up to the cerebral cortex, and brain is analyzing what the type of taste the person is getting here. So this one is the how the gustation means taste, sense of taste is moving up to the brain here. When we are saying about the tongue, here, so you have to remember the different types of taste here. Like the tip of the tongue, it is related with the sweet and related with the salt. The salt and sweet, they are collected by the tip. So on the margins, we are collecting the salt. That is, we are collecting the salt, and here on the posterior side, we are collecting the bitter. So there are four main type of taste: bitter, sour, sweet, and salt. There is another type of taste is also there, that is known as the umami. Here. That is the grilled, something grilled, but that is not sweet, but something grilled, and spicy taste, that is known as the umami here. So that you have to remember for the NEET exam, you have to remember these four. This is only for your information, that is bitter, sour, sweet, and salt here. So these are the exteroreceptor that you have to remember. We have completed eye, we have completed touch, that is the different receptors, like we have discussed pain, pressure, and touch here. Then we have discussed the nose, then we have discussed the tongue. Only thing that is remaining, that is the ear, that is the phonoreceptor, that we will discuss in the next week here. Now we have discussed that there are two types of receptors. There. One, which are known as the exteroreceptors or external receptors, which are present on the body surface. Second one are known as the internal receptors. Internal receptors means which are present inside the body here. So we have discussed about this. Now we are coming on the internal receptor here. Related with the internal receptor, first one that is known as the proprioceptor. First one that is known as the proprioceptor here. Where the proprioceptor is present? Proprioceptor is present in joints. It is present in joints. It is present in muscles, and it is present in the tendons. Where it is present? It is present in joints. It is present in the muscles, and it is present in the tendons. And it activates the proprioreceptor activates as per the body posture, here. So as the body posture changes, there is activation of this proprioreceptor, and they are trying to balance the body here. Now next one is the enteroreceptor. Next one, that is the enteroreceptor. Enteroreceptor, also known as the visceraloreceptor. Enteroreceptor, also known as the visceraloreceptor here. Enteroreceptor, that is also known as the visceraloreceptor. They are present in the visceral organs. Here. They are present in the visceral organs, and they are activated when there is change in the pH of blood, when there is change in the pH of the blood, when there is a change in the osmolarity of body fluid, here, osmolarity of body fluid. So this one is the second type of receptor which are present in the viscera, known as the enteroreceptor here. The third type of receptor, that is known as the baroreceptor, which is present in the carotid arteries here, which is present in the carotid arteries, and it is activated due to the change in blood pressure. So when there is a change in blood pressure, the baroreceptors, baro means related with the pressure here, they are activated when there is change in the blood pressure. So there is activation of the different system, those who are maintaining the blood pressure here. So in this way we have completed external, and that is the internal. In the external we have completed photoreceptor eye, we have completed mechanoreceptor you are remembering, pen, pressure, touch. For the pen, algesiceptors, nociceptors, free nerve endings, parietal lobe, somatosensory area. And we have discussed the deep pressure, that is the Pacinian corpuscles, remembering, that is the tango receptor present in the subcutaneous tissue. For the touch, that is the light touch pressure, that is we have discussed, that is present in epidermis here, and fingertips and sole, and we have discussed that here they are known as the tactile receptor, and two types of tactile receptor, that is the Merkel's disc and Meesner's corpuscles here. So in this way we have completed all here. Okay, so best of luck for best wishes for tomorrow's test. Okay, try to score maximum 180 by 180.